and welcome to Kaylee's Corner. Thanks for joining me again. I'm so glad that you're here. I had another word from the Lord here that I wanted to go ahead and share with you. This one is a little bit more intense. It's got a little bit more weight behind it. So I just pray that you would take this back to the Lord. I pray that He would speak to you personally on what His revelation is for you and what that looks like, what that sounds like, what that feels like. And I pray that He would give you that understanding. I pray that He would give you that discernment. I pray that I am just the willing vessel. These are the Lord's words. I pray that the Lord's words would flow through me. And I pray that you would hear His heart. And I pray that you would know that it would bring you closer to Him. And really above all else, that this is just me being obedient. And I pray that this, as I release these words, that the Lord would do with them what He needs to, and that it is not for me to decide, it is not for me to do, or for me to, do with them in a certain way, but that it is the Lord's purpose. I pray that He would use them how He needs to be, and I am just simply a willing vessel. And Heavenly Father, I pray that you would guide my tongue. And I pray that I invite you in, Lord. I invite you into the middle of this. This is not about me, Lord. This is about you, Lord. I pray that you would show up. And Lord, I pray that you would touch every single person that is watching this video. I pray that you would show up in their life in a tangible way, Lord. I pray that they would hear from you. I pray that they would experience you. Lord, I pray that you would meet them right where they're at, right here, right now. And I pray that they would have and develop a personal relationship with you. And Lord, I pray that you would guide my tongue. And Lord, I pray that your words would be what flow through me. So this was a word that I received on February 23rd, 2022. And I have it all written down here. So if you see me looking down, I'm just simply going to read through it. It's a little lengthy, so go ahead and bear with me, but I really feel like it's got a lot of weight behind it, and so I pray that the Lord would move through this how He needs to. So this is what I heard. He said, "You don't yet know where I am taking you. All you know is that I am calling you out to the deep. You have been wading in the water for far too long, and it is time to take the leap. No more standing on the sidelines, no more wishing you could help, no more empty prayers of guidance, no more staying up all night. The time is now, and I need you to step up. I need you to stand up. I need you to stand up on your own 2 feet. The time is now. My church, I need you to raise up. I need you to stand tall. I need you to take back what is yours. I need you to carry the cross. The enemy has played his hand, and now it's our turn to take back our land. The crooked ways of the corrupt will be made straight. I have raised and am continuing to raise my pioneers and my trailblazers to lead the way. Follow them, for they have been given great authority in these coming days. You are about to come to a crossroads where you must decide. Faith over everything. Where does your faith stand? Can your faith stand on its own, or must it be flamed by someone else? It is your flame to own and your flame to grow. The time is now. The time is now. The wind has changed directions and is blowing in a new wave, a wave of justice and upright standing, but not in the way that you have known. My wave of justice is strong and sturdy, but it is not alone. It gains speed and authority with every breath of my remnant as they lift their voices high and they speak their prayers down low. They are the ones who are truly running this show. They don't yet know it, but they can control this rising tide. For the show has begun. The chase is afoot. Don't back down now. Fight now more than ever. Pick up your battle cry and let the new voices emerge with such force and greatness that no one can deny. I have not seen anything so magnificent in all the land as my sons and daughters come together hand in hand. They must work together to seal the deal, but my mighty hand will provide their meal. They will not go without. For as many days as it takes, they will wrestle with the forces of darkness and come out the winner. They have been my steadfast ones with nothing to lose, but everything to gain. They were the ones who were stripped of everything and wore nothing but camel hair around their waist. They knew great disgrace. But the time has come now when the tables are turned and the chairs will shake, and the great commissioning will be taking place. Go now as I send you one by one to the great depths of the unwritten world. We are turning this world inside out, and we are taking the enemy by storm. Take my hand and follow my voice. I will lead you through this choice, the choice only one can make when they have me steering their ship. The word is now, and there is no time for delay. Partner with me, and I will lead the way. Come now, come one, come all. Follow me into the great unknown. There you will find rest and leave like never before. Let me show you the world that I have so delicately created, a world where no foot shall stumble and no hand will be laid upon another in vain, for the whole world shall know no other than my glorious name. Pick up your torches and lead the light brigade. Through the tunnel and over the bridge will lead you back to my very own cottage, the cottage I built for you all those years ago, when you were but a child looking for your own image. Now you have grown strong and tall, and I look forward to sharing it with you all. Come one, come all. The time is truly now. And the interesting thing is I feel like there's so much in this word, and I just love how God speaks to me, and he even rhymes, and it's just, I mean, there's so much weight to it, but also at the same time you leave feeling like, yes, I'm empowered and I can do this, and God's on the move, and I love that. I pray that's the heart behind this that you feel and that you receive. But the interesting thing is I didn't really fully understand what he was talking about when he said lead the light brigade. I didn't really understand what that was or what he was referencing. So I took some extra time and just kind of asked him to explain that to me a little further, if that was something for me personally, if that's something that like I needed to dig into deeper. And I felt like, yes, this is something that he is really trying to like get across to me. And so I was like, all right, Google, let's go ahead and Google what the light brigade is, because I didn't really understand what it was or like what he would be referencing from it. I had kind of heard, you know, the term in my mind, but I didn't really understand it. So I went and Googled what it was. So this is me going out and researching and doing a little bit more on what he was referencing with the Light Brigade. And this is what I found off of Wikipedia. Is the charge of the Light Brigade was a failed military action involving the British Light Cavalry led by Lord Cardigan against Russian forces during the Battle of Balaclava on the 25th of October in 1854 in the Crimean War. The Light Brigade was the British Light Cavalry Force. They were called the Light Cavalry Force because they rode unarmored horses who were much lighter and faster, and the men were armed with lances. They were optimized for maximum mobility and speed. They were also ideal for cutting down infantry and artillery units as they were trying to retreat. Lord Raglan had intended to send the Light Brigade to prevent the Russians from removing captured guns from their overrun Turkish positions, which a task that the Light Cavalry was well suited for. However, there was miscommunication in the chain of command, and the Light Brigade was instead sent out on a frontal assault. However, there was miscommunication in the chain of command, and the Light Brigade was instead sent out on a frontal assault against a different artillery battery, one that was well prepared with excellent fields of defense fire. The Light Brigade reached the battery under withering direct fire and scattered some of their gunners, but they were forced to retreat immediately, and the assault ended with very high British casualties and no decisive gains. The events were the subject of Alfred Lord Tennyson's narrative poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, which was published 6 weeks after this event. In the lines of this poem, they emphasize the valor of the cavalry in bravely carrying out their orders regardless of the nearly inevitable outcome. So pretty much what happened was responsibility for the miscommunication has remained controversial as the order was vague and that the captain delivered the written orders with his own verbal interpretation, and then since he died, they never really they never got much more out of him. So what happened is the light brigade, that the orders that they took, the battle cry that they went after, it really should have never happened. It was the end result of a brilliant strategic decision, but it was followed by poor communication and execution. So to me, obviously, there was a lot of information in there of just kind of like understanding what it was, and that it's a military strategy. And so I feel like that's kind of what the Lord was trying to get across to me, is like it was a military strategy. Like there was strategy behind it, and that their goal, when the original captain had, seen like, okay, hey, this is the plan. He had the vantage point. He could see from where he was at on this hillside over here. He could see in the valley, and he could see, hey, this is what strategy, this is our game plan. And so he could see it from his vantage point. And so he told someone else to go down to the other troops and tell them. And from him being up on his vantage point and seeing and making this plan, to the messenger that he used to then go and tell the rest of the troops, from them to them, there was a huge miscommunication. And at some point, they did not carry out the orders that he had originally intended, and it led to, I think they had like 600 men and like 200 of them survived. So it was just a slaughter. And it was never the captain, or I could be using this terminology is incorrect, I'm sorry, but whatever his intention was, his original plan was never for them to go and fight these people over on this side. They were supposed to come over here and fight these people, and they were supposed to, have victory, but they didn't understand that because there was a miscommunication. So that they thought that he pretty much just was asking them to go die and to like go sacrifice themselves, even if, they didn't understand it. Well, it's like, hey, this is what he told me to do. I need to go do this. And so that's kind of what, at least that's what I was understanding from it. I'm not a historian. I don't really understand a whole lot about all of this, but that was kind of what I was taking away, is that this miscommunication led to a huge destruction of all of these men dying, and that was not the original intent. And so that was kind of the information I was getting, but I was asking the Lord, like, can you make this make sense to me? Like, this sounds pretty harsh. This sounds intense. Like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to get across to me? So this is at least kind of what I feel like he was saying to me is, he said that his prophets have had the vantage points, because the prophets are high on the hill. They can see clearly everything that's going on, because they're the ones that receive their direct orders from God. They're the ones that, are high up on the hill. They have the better vantage point. They are the ones that are receiving the strategies from heaven on how to execute the plans that God has intended. There has been some muddying of the plans through the use of human minds trying to make sense of the plans that God had intended. There has been miscommunication and misguidance along the way. Now, all of this I believe is unintentional. I don't believe any of this was intended, but it has happened from God speaking to his prophets to the prophets speaking to the nations. I feel like there has been some miscommunication and some misguidance unintentionally. And so what God is saying is, like, what started off as a great plan and a strategy that God had from heaven has started to be clouded with confusion, and with confusion comes mistrust, and with mistrust comes miscalculations. So God was saying his original plan was from his highest vantage point, and he shared that plan with his chain of command, which started with his prophets, and then the prophets told the nations. And he said, I told them of my plans. They relayed it to my people, and they relayed it to the nations. But there was much that was lost in this translation. It was muddied in the waters. It muddied the waters for my people and the nations to understand. So I feel like this is kind of what he was saying, is like, much like the Light Brigade, what started off as a really great plan, it was really thought out, it was very strategic, it was very intentional. It started off as a great plan, it was then lost in translation, and therefore it was executed poorly, which resulted in these catastrophic results. And I feel like God's saying, like, I do not wish for that to happen. I don't want that to happen. I do not want that to happen to my people. I don't want that to happen to my nation. So he's like, I need to set the record straight. I need to. I can't have all of this miscommunication. I can't have all of this misguidance, all of this. I can't be lost in translation. And so I feel like what God was saying is like, he wants to set the record straight. I don't want my people to blindly follow the prophets. I want my people to come back to me, and I want them to ask for personal instructions so that I can speak to them personally, so that I can clear the waters for them to understand my plans. I don't want to be lost in translation. I feel like this is the Lord. He does not want to be lost in translation. How can you act on something if you don't know what you're doing? If you don't know what you're following, if you don't understand these orders, you're pretty much going to end up like the light brigade, where they didn't even say, they thought about saying something, and then they're like, oh, well, this is what the captain said. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. Like, don't question it, just do it, even though that wasn't even the original plan. So, like, how are you supposed to do something if you don't understand what you're doing? So I feel like that's what God's really saying, is like, you won't be able to do it if you don't understand it. You're not going to be able to do it as well as he had originally intended for it to be done. So my intentions are for everything for everyone to come out on top. And he's like, the only way that we can do that is for me to speak directly to all of my people. And I will lay out the plans, I will give them the strategies, and then they will have the intentions. They will be able to understand my intentions for each of them. And because I am making it make sense to them personally. That way, then they can follow my original orders. And everything can be executed correctly. I will not be lost in translation. And they will know what they are doing. They will not just be blindly following orders that they don't understand. I need you to bring everyone back to me so that I can give each of them a fresh download from the throne room of heaven. That way we can execute this plan according to my purpose, my will, and so that I can truly bring heaven to earth. So I understand this word is weighty, and honestly, I'm at this point where who am I to even say these words? Who am I to even have these words come through me? And you know, the Lord is working in me with that, but I am here to just simply remind you personally, and remind everyone that you can go directly to God, and you can ask him for clarity. You can ask him for his instructions for you and your family, for you and your friend group, for you and your church. He wants to give you clarity. He wants to give you those strategies from heaven. He has a perfect plan. He has a divine strategy. And if we're out here just blindly following other people who had the best of intentions but could have muddied it along the way, it could have been lost in translation, it could have been miscommunicated unintentionally, then we are not even going to be executing the correct orders. And like, I'm out here, I just want to do things right. I don't want to blindly follow anyone other than the Lord. He's the one that he guides my steps. And so my heart is that you would take everything back to God. Ask him to make it make sense to you. And that is my prayer. I pray that he would make it make sense to you. I pray that he would speak to you in a way that you would understand. I pray that he would show you in a way that you would understand. I pray that he would download it to you in a way that you would understand, and then you could receive it. We have to receive it so that we can actually act on it. And I know that this word is weighty, and I again, it's kind of a hard word for me to even want to give, but I pray that the Lord is the one that works through this. I am not one to say no when this is what God wants to do. He doesn't want to see anyone perish. He doesn't want to see anyone get stuck in the traps of the enemy. He doesn't want to see any of that happen. But he wants to tell you that personally. He wants to speak that to you personally. He wants that to make sense to you personally. You don't have to blindly follow other people that you may not understand their language. You may not understand where they're coming from. You may not understand how they get words from God, or they see visions, or they can speak in tongues, or like, you may not understand that. And God understands that because we aren't all made the same. So I would encourage you to take it to God personally, and he wants to speak to you personally so that he can make it make sense to you. And then my heartfelt prayer would be that you would be open to receiving whatever he wants to give to you, and that he may speak to you in any way. He can use anything. He is bigger than this world. He can literally use anything to speak to you. So I pray that you would be open to that. And I pray that he would give you your divine instructions, that he would give you your war strategy. And I pray that he would clear up all of the miscommunication, and that it would bring you closer to him in the process. So yeah, I really pray that you would take everything back to the Lord, and that he would give you each of those words personally. I didn't want to leave you hanging. I did have some scripture that I wanted to read over you to remind you of the faithfulness of God. And the first one is from 2 Chronicles 7. It says, "If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land." That in itself is like everything you need to know and everything you need to remember. And then from 1 Corinthians 13 it says, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part." And I feel like this is really touching on that God really, he does speak to his prophets first, and he downloads to them first. But each of us, we only get a portion of it. And so we have to be able to come together. You have to be able to get the full picture. You can't just take one piece of it and then assume the rest or fill in the blanks. No, like just because you got a piece of it, you don't know the rest of it, but God does. And so I feel like that's really what he's saying, is like, yes, he does speak to his prophets, and yes, that is still a gift that is real and present in today's world, and that is what he's doing, is he is speaking to his prophets. But we do only prophesy in part. So if all you're getting is a portion of the real story, a portion of the full story, then he is saying, I have the rest for you. God has the rest of that whole plan for you. He has the rest of it. He knows the whole thing. He's just giving it to each of his prophets. So if you only understand a portion of it, then go back to him and ask him for the rest of it, and ask him for him to meet you where you're at and to understand it. And then from Jeremiah 33, it says, "Call to me and I will answer you, and I will tell you the great and hidden things that you have not yet known." I feel like that's just really good to know that God knows all of the things. He knows all of the plans. He knows all of the treasures and the secrets, and he'll share with you if you ask him. If you call to him, he will answer you. And then Isaiah 55 says, "So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish what I have sent it out to do." I feel like that is so encouraging to know that, like, all of these things that God has spoken, they are real, they are true, and his word cannot come back to him void. It must accomplish what he has set it out to accomplish. And then in Matthew 7 it says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be a wise man who has built his house on a rock." So that was just to remind you, listen to the words of the Lord. He is wise, and it is wise to follow his promptings. And then 1 John says, "That which we have seen and we have heard, we proclaim also to you, so that you too may have fellowship with us. And indeed, our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ." This is just to remind you that what the prophets have spoken is true, and they have heard from the Lord, and that really everyone's goal is just for you to know God better and to have that personal fellowship with God. And that's how you do that, is you take what you've heard and you take it back to God, and you ask him, "Hey, can you make this make sense to me?" And he will. He wants to. And then John 10 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they will follow me." And this is to remind you that the closer you get with God, the better you'll hear his voice, the more you'll recognize him, the more you'll know him, and the easier it will be for you to follow him. And that's our goal in life, is to just follow God and follow Christ, and to, live this life the best that we possibly can. So yeah, I guess I pray that you would hear God's heart in this, and that you would take it back to him, and that he would speak to you personally. and that he would clear up any miscommunication, anything that has happened to you that has broken that trust or broken that line of communication, or just the level of everything that can get lost in translation, even unintentionally. I pray that God would restore that to you, and I pray that you would receive his full clarity, his full vision, and that he would give you divine strategies from heaven. I pray that he would give you all of everything that you are seeking for. I pray that he would give you clarity in all of those areas. And above all else, I pray that this would bring you closer to him. If you have questions, go ask God. Like, he's the only one that can answer them. I can't. All I would do is ask him, and then he tells me. And as you're seeing through all these videos, how he speaks to me is very different than how he could speak to you. And so I just pray that you would go and ask him, and that you would get to know him and hear his voice and follow him. I pray that you have a really blessed day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.